Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, do you agree that bracket creep is a problem for taxpayers in Australia?
Minister.
Thank you. I think all governments recognise that bracket creep is an issue, and that's why we return. Governments of both major parties return bracket creep when it's affordable and sustainable to do so. And you'll notice in this reforms to the tax proposal that was outlined by the former government, this does that by lowering the thresholds and there's another area. There's lowering the two thresholds and dropping the two tax rates. That's it. Sorry, I'm getting back into the tax land. So that's how we're dealing with bracket creep. It provides relief, and for 84% of taxpayers, they'll be getting a bigger income tax cut than they would have under the former government and paying less tax. By 2034-35, someone earning an average income will pay $21,635 less tax than they otherwise would have without these tax cuts.
Senator Roberts.
Thank you. Minister, you said you return bracket creep when it suits you, when you can afford it. Doesn't that mean that you're taking money off taxpayers and it's really a stealth tax because taxpayers don't know that they're moving into a higher tax bracket? Because bracket creep is when the brackets stay the same but people's wages inflate and move into a higher tax bracket. They automatically pay a far higher rate of tax in the next bracket, and they don't even know it. So isn't that a tax by stealth?
Minister.
No, I don't agree with that, and I think Australians understand marginal tax rates and the interaction between their earnings and those tax rates. And I would say again, that's why regularly tax cuts are provided to taxpayers to deal with bracket creep and provide other assistance where that's possible, where it's affordable and sustainable to do so. And I say that not to say when we choose to or when we feel like it, but because we have to manage a budget responsibly as well. And people expect that because taxes pay for all the services that people consume and expect to receive from their government.
Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, I remind you, before asking my next question, that 90%, according to the former Deputy Commissioner of Taxation, Jim Kalali, who was in charge of large companies and also international matters for the Australian Taxation Office, he said back in 1996 and 2010 that 90% of Australia's large companies are foreign-owned and since 1953 have paid little or no tax. That was due to a Liberal legislation that was passed in 1953, letting the major corporations, foreign-owned corporations, off the hook. Bob Hawke made sure that the Labor Party was also in the giving of gifts to major foreign corporations by letting the world's largest avoider of tax, Chevron, off the hook for tax in the North West Shelf gas. Now, surely the fix to bracket creep is to index brackets. If we'd done that 10 years ago, we would have saved the people $44 billion in tax. Now, you say, well, where can we get the tax from? I get that tax is the cost of government, that tax is the price of government, and tax has to be paid. But foreign corporations in this country are paying little or no tax, company tax. That means they're using our services that every mum and dad and family and small business is paying for in this country, and they're doing it for free. We used to be the world's largest exporters of gas. We get very little for it, and these foreign companies are sending it overseas. Japan gets $3 billion a year off import duty off our gas going into their country, and we get very little for it. So what I say to you is that we can't afford it because you're not taxing foreign multinationals adequately. You're letting them off the hook. Because you didn't index brackets this attempt, over the next 4 years, Australians will pay $38 billion more tax than if you index brackets. So surely you can look at the spending and cut some of that back. Surely you can look at the taxation of foreign multinationals and make sure they start paying their fair share. and then let Australian families off the hook, off the bracket creep hook. Surely, why can't you do that proper budget for the Australians?
Minister.
Thank you. There was a lot in that, Senator Roberts. I think but your main or final question was around budget management, and we have the work we've done in the last 3 budgets, or 2 budgets and my EFO, has been to repair the budget. So the deficits are a lot less going forward. We've had a surplus budget. We've lowered our debt. We've contained spending despite the pressures the budget is under, and where we've had revenue windfalls, we have returned the vast majority of it, over 80%, 88%, I think, to the budget to repair it. So we do have to manage the budget responsibly, and we've been able to do that and provide bigger tax cuts to more Australians. Your point about multinational tax reform, while I don't necessarily agree with all of it because I haven't been able to verify some of the things you've said, we agree that we should be making multinationals pay their fair share of tax. We've got a bill before the Parliament on that. We've got a bill on PRRT. We've got a bill on high balance super. And that is, again, about making sure that we're putting the budget on a sustainable footing, that we're able to pay for defence and aged care and hospitals, and all of, pay the interest on our debt and the NDIS, that we are able to pay for those services that people expect. But this plan does deal with bracket creep, so I don't accept the position that you put then that we don't. That's part of the reason why we're doing it. The Treasury advice there is very clear. Our plan provides better protection against bracket creep for 70% of all taxpayers over the decade, including the average taxpayer and those on low and middle incomes.
Senator Roberts.
Minister, how can you say that it fixes bracket creep when over the next 4 years Australians, families, individuals will be paying an extra $38 billion due to bracket creep? Because you're not indexing the brackets themselves. You're just making a one-off adjustment. As soon as that happens, with inflation continuing, you will continue to increase revenues. And inflation hits families 2 ways. First of all, goods and services cost more, but secondly, they move into a higher tax bracket and they pay more tax, so they actually end up with less take-home pay. So I don't buy your argument. Why doesn't Labor want to fix bracket creep?
Minister.
Well, I think we're just agreeing to disagree, Senator Roberts. This plan does deal with bracket creep. It reduces the top 2 tax rates by reducing 2 tax rates and increasing 2 tax thresholds. So it does deal with bracket creep, and it particularly, as I just said in my previous answer, for average taxpayers, those on the average wage and low and middle income earners, this substantially improves the tax that they get back in their pocket, the money they get back in their pocket, and returns that bracket creep. But, you disagree with me. I will keep making that point, and presumably you'll keep making yours.